hush that fell over Le Papillon, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants, was deafening. Waiters froze mid-step diners, set down their forks, and the pianist stopped playing mid-note. All eyes turned to the corner table where an impeccably dressed billionaire glared at the trembling waitress. His booming voice cut through the air, demanding perfection, belittling her efforts and seething with impatience. No one dared speak up, until the waitress looked him dead in the eye. A single sentence slipped from her lips, words so unexpected, so arresting, that they seemed to halt time itself. In that moment, lives would forever change. Sophia Jenkins had never been the type to seek out drama. She was 28, juggling 2 jobs, a mountain of student loan debt, and a spirited 7-year-old daughter named Kiki, who constantly begged for dance lessons. But this was life in New York City. When Sophia was offered a part-time position at Le Papillon, a Michelin-starred establishment perched in the heart of Manhattan, she leaped at the chance. The tips alone could keep her afloat in a city where money flowed in torrents, but rarely settled among the working class. Nestled on the upper floor of an elegant pre-war building, Le Papillon was known for its French-Asian fusion menu and an unspoken dress code that turned away even the slightest breach of formality. The staff wore crisp black and white uniforms with embroidered lapels, and each employee was trained to an impeccable standard. Head chef Corinne Lemaire had once worked under a renowned chef in Paris, and rumor had it that celebrities like Beyoncé and even Bill Gates had stopped in for discreet meals. The pressure that came with such clientele was extraordinary, yet Sophia believed the job was worth it. The pay was decent, the tips potentially life-changing, and the environment polished. As a single mother with unstoppable determination, she braced herself for the challenge. Each day, Sophia arrived 2 hours before her shift to help set up meticulously, aligning silverware, wiping down wine glasses until they shone like diamonds under the chandeliers, and memorizing every nuance of the day's menu. She learned that if the chef de cuisine was in a sour mood, the staff had to be 2 steps ahead of any requests. If the sommelier had a special recommendation, they had to be ready to describe it flawlessly. Everything mattered: how you walked, how you held a plate, how you spoke to each diner. She was exhausted, but oddly satisfied at the end of every shift. Something about delivering a perfect service invigorated her. She likened it to a dance routine, every step and gesture choreographed, every phrase of speech practiced, every smile genuine yet carefully measured. Within weeks, Sophia found her stride. She charmed couples, celebrating anniversaries, corporate groups, toasting deals, and wealthy out-of-towners wanting a taste of luxury. She was thrilled when her first big tip arrived, a neat $200 from a hedge fund manager who appreciated her knowledge of vintage Bordeaux. That tip went straight into Kiki's Dance Dreams piggy bank. Outside of the restaurant, Sophia's world was decidedly more modest. Her tiny queen's apartment was a Kiki 1-bedroom, where Kiki slept in a corner, partitioned off by a lavender curtain. The living room doubled as the dining space, and the kitchen was barely big enough to spin around in. Yet they made the most of it, filling each corner with drawings of princesses and pictures of exotic places they planned to visit one day. Despite the challenges, Sophia was determined to provide her daughter with a life that stretched beyond meager paychecks and cramped quarters. This new job at Le Papillon felt like a step in the right direction. So when she clocked in that fateful Saturday evening, she had no idea that her life was about to change. It was a busy night, reservations fully booked with what the maitre d' described as influential figures. This usually meant CEOs, high-profile attorneys, or maybe even a celebrity under a baseball cap. The entire staff was on high alert, as rumors were swirling that a notable billionaire might make an appearance. Chef Lemaire fretted in the kitchen, triple-checking fresh ingredients flown in from across the globe. The sous chefs prepped dishes with a precision that bordered on surgical. That was the night Ethan Caldwell strode through the doors of Le Papillon. Known in the media as a reclusive billionaire who rarely granted interviews, Ethan had amassed his fortune in technology, specifically advanced predictive software that governments and corporations coveted. He held the patent for a groundbreaking algorithm used in everything from stock market analysis to facial recognition. Tabloids had a field day whenever he was spotted reporting on everything from his choice of suits to the mysterious women occasionally seen at his side. Some called him the next Jeff Bezos, others the new Steve Jobs. Many described him as brilliant, yet ruthless a man who allegedly valued his time and money above human decency. But to the staff of Le Papillon, he was simply Table 9 tonight. And that was all that should matter, at least according to the restaurant's code of conduct. Sophia, having studied the seating chart, knew he was the last-minute VIP addition, the kind who might drop 4 figures on a bottle of wine without blinking. She wasn't assigned to serve Table 9 at first, but fate has a funny way of intervening. Chapter 2. A tense encounter approx. 800 words. The restaurant buzzed like a hive on the brink of chaos. Waiters circled the dining floor like choreographed dancers, swift, silent, and efficient. Every seat was filled. The clink of glasses, the rustle of napkins, and the quiet hum of polite conversation intermingled with the subdued notes of live piano music. Sophia's section for the night was originally Tables 5, 6, and 7, none of them especially important. Table 5 was a couple celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary. Table 6 was occupied by a solitary diner who was more interested in reading his thick biography of Winston Churchill than in socializing. Table 7 was a small group of art dealers politely discussing an upcoming auction. Sophia had just successfully delivered amuse-bouche, a trio of delicate canapés, to each table without incident. So far, so good. Then came the surprise. Julian, the waiter assigned to Table 9, slipped in the kitchen. It happened so fast. He was carrying a tray of champagne flutes, headed for the VIP section, when a stray garnish of microgreens fell to the floor, causing him to lose his footing. Julian tumbled, flutes and champagne crashing in a spectacular sparkling arc. He twisted his ankle badly. The maitre d' rushed in, anxious and pale, while Chef Lemaire let out an audible gasp from behind the pass. In that frantic moment, the maitre d' scanned the restaurant for a suitable replacement. Another server had just started her break. Another was bogged down with a 12 top in the opposite corner. His gaze landed on Sophia. "Sophia," he said quickly, "you're up." She blinked, heart pounding. She was nervous, but the unspoken rule at Le Papillon was unyielding. You never question an order, especially in front of guests. She nodded curtly, found an open tray, and prepared herself to serve Ethan Caldwell, reclusive billionaire, rumored to be as demanding as he was powerful. Taking a deep breath, she approached Table 9. Ethan Caldwell was no older than 45, tall and broad-shouldered with neatly styled salt and pepper hair. He wore a custom-tailored navy suit with a subtle pinstripe that probably cost more than a year of Sophia's rent. His wrist sported a watch that gleamed with understated opulence, something Swiss, no doubt. Next to him sat a business associate, slighter in build, equally well-dressed, whose name Sophia would later learn was Aaron Welsh. Surrounding them were 2 bodyguards seated at separate tables, attempting to be inconspicuous, but failing miserably given their matching black suits and earpieces. Sophia approached, posture-aligned, eyes calm. A faint smile etched on her lips. "Good evening," she said, voice steady. "Welcome to Le Papillon. My name is Sophia, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. May I start you with our signature cocktails, or would you prefer to see the wine list?" Ethan glanced at her, barely acknowledging her presence. She could see the flicker of annoyance in his steel-grey eyes, presumably due to the minor commotion with the champagne fiasco. Aaron Welsh offered a polite smile, but Ethan said nothing. "Wine list," he muttered. "Make it quick, and if you have a good vintage of Riesling, bring that." He didn't look up from his phone fingers flying across the screen. Sophia nodded and hurried to fetch the wine list, ignoring the knot forming in her stomach. She reminded herself that as a server, her job was to remain calm, professional, and gracious no matter who sat at the table. This was the unwritten credo she and her colleagues lived by daily. Be invisible when needed, be supportive when invited, and always maintain composure. She took a mental note to check the cellar for the recommended Riesling that Chef Lemaire had raved about. Perhaps it might please him and brighten his mood. Returning to table 9, she carefully offered the list. "We have an excellent Riesling from the Mosel Valley," she suggested in her best polite tone. "It's a 2001 vintage, quite rare, with notes of peach apricot and a mineral finish. Head chef Corinne Lemaire speaks highly of it. I think it would pair beautifully with tonight's specials." Ethan paused, then tossed the wine list aside as if it were a distraction. He hadn't once made direct eye contact yet. "Fine. Bring it," he snapped. "But let's not waste time with the cheap stuff. I can pay for quality." Sophia nodded, forced a mild smile, and stepped away. In the brief moment she spent fetching the bottle and retrieving the correct glassware, she felt